Hello there, viewers. I'm the Knight of Arcane, and we're back for round 2 of Pokemon as JoJo Stands. Since the first one, we added a narrator for this series, Jacob Dikemi, first appearing in Minecraft mobs as Stands. It was fun to get back to the Pokemon ones, so let's see the newest Pokemon as Stands, shall we? Okay, this is Jacob Dikemi, back with my next report. After that run-in with Sleep When I'm Dead, I took a few days off to rest up and prepare for when, and I'm 100% sure it's when, they try and attack me again. Fortunately, there's been no sign of them, but unfortunately, there's been no sign of Miss Hurley, either since that night. Hope she's okay, in a, professional, possible allies sort of way. Speaking of allies, I was able to make some since my last report, but I have to mention the user that led to our encounter first. I was walking downtown when I spot some kids talking to someone in an alleyway. Getting closer to them, I was able to recognize the man they were talking to, and can already feel a headache starting to form. Scott Brandon, a 2-bit thief and con man. He's been an annoying little rat in this town for years, stealing anything he wanted or thought he could resell, even stealing homework to try and pass classes. But he ran away and left town back in high school. Was surprised to see him back in town, but could tell he was trying to scam these kids. The guy is trying to make a trade with them for one of the kids' bike for some jewelry, claiming it would impress a gal he's into. I walk up and tell the kids to scram, that he's trying to give them fake items that ain't worth a dime. They run off, and Scott starts to turn to me, when he freezes up, giving me the perfect chance to grab him by his collar and force him against the wall. Scott obviously remembers me from our school days. Mainly all the times I stood up against him, every time he stole something from my sister. His left eye started twitching, remembering the many black eyes I gave him. He says to me, "Hey Jacob, long time no see," to which I reply, "Yeah, not long enough. And see, you're still up to your old tricks." His face changes, obviously insulted, as he tries to claim he's a changed man and doing legitimate business. That the items he has to offer are real and all that. I don't believe him one bit. And even if they were, they're most likely stolen. But as he continues his BS, I notice a hand going for one of my pockets. And it ain't one of his, and I know it ain't a human's. State of my head pops up behind me, causing Scott's eyes to go wide, as my stand grabs the hand and pulls it up, revealing a short purple rat-looking figure. I just look Scott dead in the eyes and give him a dark chuckle. Always knew you were a rat. He's still quiet, looking between me and State of my head, so I decide to have my stand slam his against the wall right next to him, the force causing items to fall off both of them. Talk now. Scott quickly spills the beans, saying how he was hired to steal some arrow for some gang, and while stealing it, he accidentally cut his hand on the arrow's head. He never mentioned it to the goons he stole it for when getting his payment. And the next thing he knows, he's not only walking away with what they owed him, but also the cell phone one of the goons had, losing some product he was holding for a friend in exchange. He then spent a few days figuring out about his stand and giving it the name Rat-a-tat, and that he can swap items of roughly the same size in a pretty decent range, and can even store smaller items on the stand itself for easy swapping, and that maybe those goons found him again while he was testing his abilities, and that they had a stand faster than his, and was able to stop him like I did. before he was able to escape and hide out in his old stomping grounds. But I was a bit distracted when he mentioned an arrow. I especially need to mention it to the Foundation, since there seems to be another arrow out there, and maybe more. Scott gets a look in his eyes as he finishes his story, and tells me, like so, when motorcycles rev up behind me, and I hear a voice yell out, "There's the little rat, where's my bloody stuff?" I turn around and see 7 men and women on motorcycles, looking right at us. Dressed like you would expect punks like these to look like, and they're not happy at all. I'm familiar with this gang, the Hungry Hania, sometimes called the Wild Hania, or the Hania 7, a biker gang from the east side of town that are a bunch of troubled youths, who mainly partake in street races and vandalism, and are more annoying than anything else. Though they got the name Hania 7 about some time after I graduated high school. Most of their members got caught up in some drug scandal and were arrested. Only 3 got away since they weren't a part of it, and they got new members after the rest were sent off to jail. And now, the full gang is right behind me, with their leader looking right at me. Said leader parks his motorcycle and stomps over to us, though he's actually quite short to my surprise. Scott, sweating heavily now under my grip, squirms against the wall. Asher, he speaks out. How can I help you? Asher Yamada, the screaming daredevil himself, glares at him and pulls out a knife. You know damn well why I'm here. Now where is it? I'm a little surprised. The Hungry Hanaya, even back in the day, weren't this quick to pull weapons out in a fight usually. So figured this must have been important. I cough, getting his attention as he turns to me. Look, whatever this rat did to you, he easily deserves whatever beating you think he deserves. But I'm not going to stand here and let you gut him like a fish. Asher grew angry at my words and replied with anger. This no-good rat already tried to set up shop on our turf, and then he goes and not only steals some of my jewelry, but my necklace. That makes it personal. If it was just cash or something else, I'd just give him a warning. But for this, he's going to learn a painful lesson. Asher at that point turned to Scott and seemed like he was going to stab him in the hand, but stopped with a look of surprise on his face. Confused, I turned to see I'm no longer holding Scott up, but one of the members of the Hungry Hania. A motorcycle revs up, and we both turn around to see Scott on the motorcycle the guy I'm now holding was riding. He shouts to me like this, and pops the wheel up and drives off. About a half a block before falling over. I guess he doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle. The rest of Asher's gang rides over to the fallen Scott and drag him up, putting his hand on a nearby car, then spreading his fingers out. Seeing both aliens and Yakuza-related materials, I know what they plan to do, so I drop the goon and rush in front of Asher. I'm not going to just let you cut his finger off for some petty theft. If you want him, you go for me first. Asher actually smirks at this before something sweeps under my legs. When I get back up, I see that behind Asher is another stand. This one looks like some robot with a motorcycle helmet head that looks vaguely lizard-like, with a lizard-like tail to go with it and a wheel in its chest. You think you can take on my bad motor scooter, huh? So it turns out that the whole Hungry Hania gang are stand users, though right now only saw Asher's bad motor scooter. The stand mainly attacks with its tail and can switch into 3 modes. Mode 1 being the first I faced. In this first mode, it got some hits on state of my head, and I was surprised when I felt nothing from the hits. Well, to be exact, I didn't feel any power getting built up with these hits. Asher then yells out, "Hey, what the hell? Is your stand able to stop stand abilities or something?" Turns out, Bad Motor Scooter is able to lower the power of any enemy it hits, and take a fraction of that power back to use as a boost to itself, giving a different boost depending on the mode it's in. It seems State of My Head is able to negate this power with its own, though unable to gain anything also in exchange. Good. Seems more even. Before anything else though, we were cut off by one of the goons noticing something before letting out a choked scream. We all turn around in response, and I knew my face grew white with what I saw. This thing was mostly a floating lizard-like head with what looked like petals around its head, yet no eyes, a set of lines going down its head where they would be. In its reptile mouth, there seemed to be a human head inside it, though I could only make out a pair of lips on it. It had long, flowing wings-like things that looked more like fabric on a cloak, and at the moment, two long, snake-like heads flowing out of the shoulder area, along with two stumpy things and a tail. One of these heads was wrapped around one of the members of the Hungry Hanigas, before the head then started to swallow the member. Another member started to run at it when the second head lashed out and knocked them to the side. It then proceeded to swallow them, and at the same time, a third snake head emerged from under it. And shortly after, a fourth. We all rushed for cover. Me, Asher, and another member of his group got behind a car, but the other three were too close when they moved, and were grabbed up also and swallowed, with 3 more heads popping up then. Asher was the one able to figure out the stand's ability, as a bird then flew by and one of the heads tried to lunge at it, several times in fact, but the bird was able to get away. It seems to only attack anything that moves near it, something he then demonstrated by throwing a rock near the stand, who then attacked the rock in the surrounding area with 3 of the heads. Along with that, anyone the stand is able to swallow becomes an extra head it can then use to attack. However, it doesn't seem that fast based on how the bird was able to fly away. Asher grinned before summoning Bad Motor Scooter again and changing into what they called their third mode. He proceeded to climb on its back and rushed out of cover, riding it like a normal bike. The member behind the car with me told me the third mode is when the stand is at its fastest speed, and this stand is clearly slower than them. And they were right. Asher was able to dodge the heads easily and get around behind it, before rushing the stumpy sacks behind it with his knife in hand. I was originally confused, but then saw them move slightly, and figured out that's where the people he swallowed are stored. Asher was going to do a drive-by slash in the hopes to open them up and free his team, but that's when the tail lashed out at them. It was a lot faster than the heads, and was solely aiming for Bad Motor Scooter. Asher tried to swerve out of the way, but the stand was able to knock them off. The stand then turned around towards Asher, all 7 snakeheads ready as Asher started to get back up. I took that moment to then run out from cover and towards them. 3 heads turned around towards me, but State of My Head was able to block them and absorb their hits. Summoning my stand seemed to cause the tail to lash out again, straight at my stand. But I was prepared for this, and not only did State of My Head stop that attack, they also grabbed the tail. I had my stand pull them back, just in time as the other heads were about to grab Asher. State of My Head started to spin around, the tail still in its grasp, before using all the built-up energy to throw it into the side of a building. The impact left it stunned, but we weren't going to give it a chance to get back up. My stand grabbed the stumpy sacks, and pulled as hard as they could and tore them off, opening them and revealing the other members of the Hungry Hania. The extra 5 heads dissolved away, but we went right into punching that stand until it too dissolved into shadows. I was barely able to catch my breath when I was forcibly turned around. Asher looked right up at me with a hardened look before surprising me and the rest of the gang and kneeling. You saved not only me, but my crew. This group is a family, and you protected it. For that, we owe you a life debt. The Hungry Hania are yours to command. I honestly didn't know how to reply, especially since the rest of them then followed suit. So I just had them get up and tell them it was cool. I noticed that Scott was gone, probably scurried off during the commotion, and Asher then noticed it too. Thankfully, one member of the crew rushed over to where I held Scott up and was looking through all of Scott's stolen goods, before running over with 4 rings, 2 necklaces, and a necklace with a ring on its chain, giving it to their boss, though they claim that I'm now their boss. Asher quickly put the jewelry on, while another member, the one that was first attacked by that stand, told us before the stand appeared he saw someone they met the day before. The user is apparently named Hiroshi Armin, and he was in their turf wanting to do business with them. But Asher turned them down since he was vague on the details of what they'd be hired to do. Plus, Asher didn't care for the vibes he gave out. The member also heard the guy say, "in the dark," before he was attacked. So we now have a name for the stand. Quick reminder, we have a Patreon set up. It's one of the best ways to help support the channel and both these videos and my other projects. You'll get monthly headshots, access to weekly polls, early looks at my own other projects, and help us reach our Patreon goals for these videos. Every little bit helps. Lowest tier starts at $3 a month. Anyways, now back to the video. Anyways, it's a few days later, and during that time, I've been constantly followed by members of the Hungry Hanias, stating it's for protection, that they gotta keep the boss safe. I try to argue I'm not their boss, but they seem to ignore that. Because of all this, I keep getting weird looks from people, and some whispering I'm going back to my old ways, something I had to explain to my mom that I'm not. Plus, they keep causing a bit of trouble almost everywhere they go, though that's more accidentally caused than purposely. So I set up a talk with Asher to get this straightened up. We talk a bit on that, and come to an understanding that we're allies against those that want to hurt this town, and to cool it a bit with the protection, which she replies, "Sure thing, bro," and welcomes me to the Hania family, followed by 2 crew members popping up from behind some bushes and shooting confetti. I'm a bit done with this, but this seems better than the other trouble. Another member runs up. I need to remember their names, and explains to us the situation in the woods around their turf. Apparently, anyone that goes in there these past few weeks has been attacked by something in there. Something that leaves a bite mark and drains them of their blood, almost killing them. We agree to search the woods for this thing. Many think it's a vampire, but that's crazy. Vampires aren't real. Anyways, me and Asher team up, getting to talk a bit more and get to actually know each other, and finding a lot of similarities between us when we hear people talking. We hide in some bushes and find 3 people carrying some crates through the woods. They're all wearing entirely black outfits and hats, and on all of them is a symbol. one that looks like a rocket with a red stylized R on it. We hear them talk about the woods being the perfect place to move around in, that no one would notice them in here, and that admins like old George here, they say that while patting one I assume is George on the back, can take care of them with their stands. That piques our interest. More stand users. Heck, a whole gang of stand users? However, their talk of attacking people, innocent people, enrages Asher, so he launches out, summoning Bad Motor Scooter in their second mode, and whips their tail out, breaking open one of the boxes and knocking one of the goons out. The box opens and reveals mainly drugs, but this freaks out the second grunt, while George puts his box down and yells out, "Bats in the belfry." A blue, robotic-looking bat thing then appears. It had a small head on top of its body that could rotate 360 degrees, and for some reason had a giant mouth in its body, with a giant tongue in it. It went to lunge at Asher, but I got between them and summoned State of My Head to stop them. However, it was able to bite into my stand's arm, and I started to feel a little weaker. I went to punch it off, but it barely moved. This caused the other grunt to laugh. Fools! Bats in the belfry gains the durability of whatever its teeth is able to suck into. Your stand must be pretty durable if it can't remove it. Unfortunately, that's true. State of My Head has incredible durability, so that's a problem. George himself starts to swing a pipe he has at me. I try to block it with my stand, but it's stuck in place, and is even being pulled up by his stand. Asher tries to help dislodge his stand off mine, but is having trouble, all while I keep dodging George's swings. I get a few hits on him, but he's able to take them like a champ, and he didn't look that tough. I'm guessing the durability his stand gets applies to him also. Right as Asher is able to get Bats in the Belfry off of State of My Head, George gets a good hit on my shoulder, and I fall to the ground. He gets ready to finish me when we hear a box getting crushed. We turn around to see the broken cardboard box crushed and Bats in the Belfry's mouth, being shoved in by Asher, and forcing it to bite into the box as both the stand's eyes and the goons' eyes go wide in shock. Durability of anything it's able to get its teeth into, eh? So what's the durability of a broken cardboard box? Not much. I resummon State of My Head and lay into George, while Asher and Bad Motor Scooter lay into Bats in the Belfry. Our finishing blows send them right into the last goon, knocking them all out. We start getting calls from the other members of the Hungry Hania. Apparently they also faced some of these same goons. The cops get involved and they all get arrested. Never did get the name of the group these goons were in, but I'll keep an eye out for them. Anyways, we now have Asher and the Hungry Hania helping out, even offered to help me train some more. Good. That's all I have to report, I guess. Jacob Dikemi signing off or something. Well, that's our newest Pokemon stands. And Jacob now has some more allies in Asher and their motorcycle gang. I plan to show off their stands over time, not just doing Pokemon-based stands for them, giving them a mix between the different things as stands I have planned. So stay tuned for seeing more and learning more on the Hungry Hanias. Galahound 19. Hey, I get that. Anyway, they suggested in the comments Hydreigon. Think I came up with a good idea, though might revisit using Hydreigon again, either for another stand based off the Pokemon, or I'll evolve in the dark later on and then make the changes. We'll see. Let me know what you think of these stands in the comments, along with anything else I should turn into stands, or any other prompts involving Pokemon and JoJo I should do. If you haven't already, I highly recommend both the start of the Pokemon as Stand series, also the start of these video series, and the introduction of Jacob in the Minecraft Mobs stand video, along with my other videos that might also interest you. If you can, leave a like, any comments on how I can improve my series, and subscribe to become a part of our little Arcane town. We're getting close to our first sub goal, FNAF animatronics stands. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.